Hajime Nagumo is a pathetic and useless guy who gets randomly teleported to another world with his classmates, where they all suddenly got powers. Obviously, everyone had somewhat of a useful skill, except for Hajime, who could only transform dirt into bricks. Hajime then started to train to level up along with his classmates, despite only having the ability to dig his own grave. The worst part is that their level got hard stuck, so they had to grow a pair and visit the labyrinth to get some PvE skills. But obviously, Kaori knew he wouldn't even be able to fight an ant. She tried to warn him not to go with the others, fearing it might be too dangerous for him. Instead of heeding Kaori's advice, Hajime asks her to protect him and heal him if he gets injured. Finding Hajime peggable in the moment, Kaori vows to protect him. He and his classmates entered the Great Labyrinth in the next day to level up on skills, but since he is a useless glue sniffer, he was pretty much a liability to everyone around him. The Chad of their class, Kuki, even tells Hajime to goon and train like he does, but he just thanks him. As they continue to explore the unholy place, Hajime and his classmates stumble upon a glance crystal. However, upon touching it, everyone is instantly teleported to a trap-filled chamber crawling with monsters. While his classmates unleash their special effects to fend off the monsters, Hajime focuses on rescuing a certified baddie from danger when he is suddenly betrayed and attacked by one of his own classmates, sending him plummeting into the depths of the Great Labyrinth. Hajime wakes up scared in the Great Orcus Labyrinth. Realizing that he is all alone, Hajime tries to find a way out when he suddenly comes across a bunny. Just when Hajime thinks the rabbit is cute and fluffy, it turns into a woman on periods and kills two monsters. Just as Hajime is about to turn into a bunny snack, a monstrous bear appears and gobbles up the rabbit. Fearful for his life, Hajime tries to escape, but the bear notices Hajime-senpai and sends an attack which causes Hajime to lose an arm. Wanting to enjoy his life on disability checks, Hajime uses his transmutation ability and manages to survive the monster. Due to dumb luck, Hajime finds himself directly beneath the Holy Crystal, which is
a mythical stone created
by the crystallization of an e-girl's bathwater. Without waiting any further, Hajime chugs on that shit and gains a bit of strength. Hajime is filled with bitterness over the betrayal. He realizes that no one is coming to save him, and if he wants to survive, he must save himself, and so he drinks Belle Delphine's bathwater and kills a few monsters. Once he is done killing them, Hajime unleashes his inner Chinese and eats the monster wolf. As the beast cells merge with his own, Hajime undergoes a painful transformation which causes him to look like Ken Kanki from Wish. Startled by his transformation, Hajime opens his status plate and discovers that he has gained new skills of mana manipulation, iron stomach, lightning speed, and language comprehension. Psyched by this, Hajime celebrates like an American, which involves him eating more food and creating firearms. Once the gun is ready, Hajime names it Donner and uses it to shoot the bunny monster, which he consumes later on. This time, Hajime gains the skills of quick step and aerodynamics. Now feeling pretty confident, Hajime makes up his mind to confront an old enemy. As he comes across the bear again, Hajime tells him that not only will he take revenge on him for eating his arm, but also because all the baddies picked him over men. Smirking menacingly, Hajime directs a series of attacks on the plus-sized bear. As promised, Hajime quenches his thirst for revenge by tearing off the bear's arm and devouring it. He notes that, while the bear meat tastes like crap, it's still better than all the monsters he's consumed so far. After a quick munching session, Hajime finishes off the bear. With his newfound victory, he makes up his mind to survive this hellhole and make it back to his home. In the meantime, Hajime's classmates assemble in front of the King Elihade and the Knight Commander of the Hylic Kingdom. Meld informs His Majesty how they were teleported to the 60th floor of the labyrinth where they encountered the Behemoth and the Traum soldiers. As Meld reveals how one of their heroes perished during the battle, the king tells them not to breathe a word of it. Meanwhile, Shizuku practices with her sword when she hears her classmate, Daisuke, ramble like a schizo freak. Slightly worried, Shizuku calls out Daisuke on his weird behavior, which only makes the boy more unstable. Once Daisuke leaves, Shizuku recalls how he would always bully Hajime and wonders if Daisuke is the Suzibaka that attacked Hajime. Shaking away her thoughts, Shizuku returns to Kaori's side, who finally regains her consciousness after 5 whole days. As Kaori inquires about Hajime, Shizuku assures her that she doesn't need him as she will show her the power of tongue and 2 fingers. Unfortunately, Kaori ignores Shizuku and instead laments how Hajime must be crying for her. In the meantime, Hajime stands in front of a big door created for your mom and realizes he has never read about this part of the labyrinth. Feeling confident, Hajime activates the African genes in him and tries to break in but fails. However, in his attempt to enter, Hajime awakens two Cyclops that had been guarding the door. Without giving him a chance, the Cyclops launch multiple attacks, but Hajime isn't surprised since he has seen enough Isekai anime. After yeeting both Cyclops, Hajime discovers two Mana Stones attached to their bodies, which he uses to unlock the door. Upon entering, Hajime finds a girl sealed in a stone. As he takes one glimpse towards her, Hajime realizes the girl looks old enough to qualify for a Happy Meal and turns to leave before the FBI comes knocking. Seeing Hajime go, the girl says, "Step bro, I'm stuck in the washing machine again." This causes Hajime to stop dead in his tracks. Seizing the opportunity, the girl reveals how she comes from a powerful line of vampires, but her people betrayed her and sealed her away since she has infinite aura. Upon hearing how she was betrayed, Hajime uses all of his power to break the seal. Once the fun-sized girl is free from her shackles, Hajime asks about her name, but the girl insists he give her a new one. Having done PhD in Rizology, Hajime tells the girl she reminds him of the moon, and therefore, her name is Yu. Before Yu can let Hajime Slytherin inside her chambers of secrets, they are suddenly attacked by massive projectiles. Without wasting a second, Hajime quickly guards Yu, sacrificing himself in the process. After the sudden attack, Hajime pours Belle Delphine's bathwater on his injury and regains his footing. Turning around, he and Yu come face to face with a giant scorpion monster. Now pissed, Hajime asks Yu to stick close to his body so he can fight the monster without worrying about her. Once Yu is latched onto his body, Hajime creates some distance and attempts to use Donner to eliminate the overgrown bug. However, after firing a few rounds, Hajime realizes his weapon is ineffective against the monster's hardened body. Just as he's running out of options, Yu snacks on his blood and flexes her strength with a high-level spell attack aimed at the monster. Though the attack doesn't finish off the scorpion, Hajime quickly devises a plan and tells Yu to target the spot where he previously shot the monster. As planned, Yu uses her magic while Hajime puts Donner to a good use, and together they take down the creepy crawler. Once the threat is dealt with, Yu asks Hajime why he didn't abandon her. With a smirk, Hajime responds that he can have his way with her without worrying about the law. As Yu shoots him a glare, Hajime quickly shifts gears and asks if all vampires live for 3,000 years. Yu then reveals that she's special, ageless, and immortal. As the conversation progresses on, Hajime learns from Yu about the ancient war between the Mavericks and the gods. When the Mavericks began to lose, they built labyrinths to hide and protect themselves. Yu then tells him that if they can locate a Maverick, they might find their way out of the labyrinth. Filled with hope, Hajime creates more weapons from the scorpion's body. Once he is done, Yu asks him why he looks and sounds so emo. And so, as they clear out the labyrinth, Hajime tells Yu his entire life story, hoping to get oral support from the vampire. After finishing his sob story, Hajime is utterly disappointed as Yu does what women do best. However, when Hajime sees Yu cry for him, he assures her that he no longer cares as he just wants to return home. Hearing the word home, Yu grows sad and reveals she was picked from a trash can and has no home. Hajime realizes that if he does something sus to Yu, she won't be able to complain to her parents and therefore invites her to his home in the human world. This instantly cheers the vampire, who agrees to accompany him in his quest to return home. Resuming their journey, Hajime and Yu encounter a group of dinosaurs. Upon seeing the flowers on their head, Yu giggles and tells Hajime the dinosaurs look very pooky, but Hajime reminds her how they are trying to eat them. After a lot of running, Hajime and Yu enter a cave with floating green balls. Out of nowhere, Yu attacks Hajime, who notices she has the same flower growing on her head. While dodging Yu's attacks, Hajime notices a monster with mind-controlling abilities behind Yu. During the battle, a flower begins to grow on Hajime's head, making the monster think she has him under control. What she doesn't realize is that Hajime is so dead inside, nothing can truly grow from him. As the flower wilts away, Hajime swiftly shoots the monster dead. Once the battle is over, Hajime adds the flower monster to his food palette, showing solidarity with the vegans. When he asks Yu if she would like to eat something, the vampire reveals she gets her nutrients from blood. Without further warning, Yu takes off her coat and pounces on Hajime. Once Yu has her double snack, Hajime resumes his descent until he and Yu finally reach the 100th floor. Upon their arrival, they are greeted by a lavish door which instantly leads them to the Maverick's lair. Psyched up, Hajime finds himself getting closer to his goals when suddenly a teleportation circle appears. Instead of being fearful, Hajime smirks, anticipating the arrival of the final boss. Just as he had hoped, a gigantic Hydra materializes before him and Yu. Swept into action, Hajime and Yu launch fierce attacks on the enemy, putting all their might into each strike. However, their efforts prove futile as they quickly discover that the attacking dragons are instantly healed by a white healing dragon. This realization prompts Hajime to shift his focus toward the healing dragon. Yet, when he and Yu attempt to direct their attacks at it, they find themselves at a losing end as the defending dragons instantly prevent the attacks from getting closer to the white dragon. Since giving up is not their ninja way, Hajime and Yu continue to attack the Hydra until one of the dragon heads decides to show Yu her past. And since Yu's past is scarier than a OF girl's past, she begins to tremble with fear. Noticing Yu's plight, Hajime instantly comes to her aid. After giving Yu e-girl bathwater, Hajime manages to pull Yu out of her nightmare. To further give her strength, Hajime places a kiss on her lips and vows to win against the final boss. Now back with a vengeance, Hajime and Yu combine forces to take down the Hydra. While Hajime unravels his new gun, Yu uses her archaic magic to slay the dragons. To nobody's surprise, the duo successfully eliminates the dragon. But before they could celebrate, the white dragon rises from the ashes and takes an aim at Yu. Before the attack can reach her, Hajime lunges to protect her. Once the dust settles, Yu finds the Hydra still standing while her man falls unconscious on the ground. With Hajime out cold, Yu fights valiantly on her own, but eventually succumbs to the dragon's overwhelming power. Meanwhile, in his unconscious state, Hajime hears Yu's cries, and something inside him snaps. Consumed by fury, he awakens, mad with rage. Now back in the fight, he cradles Yu protectively in his arms and instructs her to drink his blood to regain her strength. As Yu obeys, growing stronger with each sip, Hajime gets to work. He creates multiple dents in the walls and plants bombs inside. Once the dragon is in the right position, Hajime fires his gun at the bombs, trapping the enemy beneath the wreckage of the collapsing walls. With Phase 1 complete, he orders Yu to begin Phase 2. Quick on her feet, Yu unleashes her favorite spell, Azure Blaze, finally bringing an end to the Hydra. However, instead of doing the dirty tango as a celebration, both Hajime and Yu collapse in fatigue. Back at the Heilig Kingdom, Hajime's teacher, Eiko, who had also been summoned, confronts Pope Ishtar for sending her beloved students back to the Great Orcus Labyrinth. In response, Pope Ishtar tells Eiko that her students would rather sacrifice their lives than live long enough to study about mitochondria being the powerhouse of the cell. Now royally pissed, Eiko tells the Pope that if he doesn't call her students back to safety, she would not pick out cotton in the fields. Meanwhile, at the labyrinth, Kaori has a breakdown as she finds herself missing Hajime. Seeing this, Kuki tells Kaori to do some push-ups if she misses Hajime so much. Luckily, a few NPCs tell Kuki to shut up and offer their support to Kaori. The second Hajime regains consciousness, he finds his bare bottoms resting against a soft bed and his hand clutching Yu's level 2 giant. Confused, Hajime wakes up and forces Yu to open her eyes. Once the vampire recollects herself, Hajime bombards her with questions. Yu then reveals that while he was unconscious, she dragged him through the door, which opened right after they defeated the Hydra. Once she saw they were safe, she gave him some holy water to replenish his soul. Once that's out of the way, Hajime asks Yu why they were all natural, but the vampire playfully licks her lips and tells Hajime to get ready to pay child support for the next 18 years. Later on, Hajime and Yu discover some clothes and decide to try them on. While dressing up, Yu tells Hajime that she found a lot of interesting things while he was fast asleep. Once they are all set, the two set out on an exploration and discover many bizarre things in the Maverick's lair. As Hajime comes across a jacuzzi, Yu tells him that they can get cozy in the jacuzzi, but Hajime turns her down. Venturing deeper on, Hajime and the vampire come across various rooms, but all of them happen to be sealed shut. Moving along, they come across a giant room where they find the Maverick skeleton positioned on the chair. Hajime instantly remarks that the Maverick looks like he died waiting for the goth mummy's reply. He then notices a magic circle on the floor and decides to step on it for shits and giggles. To Hajime's surprise, he ends up triggering a recording of the Maverick, who introduces himself as Oscar Orcus, the man who built the labyrinth. Oscar further tells Hajime that he just wanted to share the reasons why he and many Mavericks like him chose to fight. On the other hand, Meld takes the group of heroes on the 65th floor where they have a rematch with the Behemoth. Instead of wetting their pants like before, the heroes assure Meld they can take on the monster. And then, with combined attacks, the heroes finally prevail over the Behemoth. Back at the Maverick's lair, Oscar informs Hajime that, as the first to clear his labyrinth, he will bestow upon him his powers. However, before doing so, Oscar urges Hajime to promise that he will never use those powers for evil purposes. With those final words, Oscar vanishes, leaving Hajime's mind flooded with all of Oscar's memories and abilities. Once Hajime regains his composure, he turns to you and reveals that the Mavericks weren't the malevolent gods or rebels they were made out to be. They were, in fact, liberators. Ultimately, Hajime doesn't give a flying flipping fudge about the history of Tortoise, and so he shrugs and tells you that he learned a new skill called creation, which allows him to add energy to raw materials, which then gives them special qualities. Upon learning that Hajime can create artifacts, Yu asks if he can make her a female happy device since she is tired of playing DJ. Hajime, being a man of God, turns Yu down and tells her to learn ancient magic herself. The next day, after burying Oscar, Hajime resumes his search for a way to the surface. As he and Yu study some scrolls, they discover that a magic circle can teleport them to the surface. However, to activate it, they need Oscar's ring, which Hajime already holds. Suddenly, Yu approaches him with an ancient book, and upon reading it, Hajime learns that there are many more labyrinths scattered across Tortoise, each offering powers to those who clear them. Excited by this revelation, Hajime decides to conquer every labyrinth Tortoise has to offer, determined to gain enough strength to eventually return to his mom's basement. That same day, Hajime and Yu enter Oscar's workshop. Surrounded by the intricate machinery, Hajime is immediately captivated and tells Yu that he wants to stay longer, so he can absorb all the knowledge and information the workshop has to offer. 2 months later, Hajime and Yu stand in the magic circle, ready to return to the surface. However, before going, Hajime tells Yu that the weapons and magic that he has learned makes him quite overpowered, which is why they need to tread carefully as the Holy Church and the kingdoms will seek to destroy him. Once Yu understands the stakes, Hajime activates the circle. Arriving back on the surface, Hajime and Yu share a loving gaze at each other when suddenly, a bunny girl charges toward them at full speed. Noticing her, Yu becomes irritated as she sees the girl's badonkins bouncing uncontrollably. She nudges Hajime, suggesting they should leave immediately. However, before they can move on, the rabbit girl, who introduces herself as she, clings to Hajime and declares that she has been waiting for him. Unfazed by her enthusiasm, Hajime tries to brush she off, until she mentions that her family is in grave danger and only he can save them. Yu tells she womp womp and yanks on her bunny ears, ordering her to let go of her man. Similarly, Hajime, channeling his inner Patrick Bateman, bluntly kicks she to the side, informing her that he isn't obligated to help some random bunny girl. With that, Hajime and Yu continue their journey. However, their progress is soon interrupted by a fearsome monster named Daihedor. Having encountered it before, she urgently warns Hajime to flee, claiming the creature will strike him where the sun doesn't shine. Ignoring her, much like everyone ignores you, Hajime calmly raises his gun and eliminates the monster in a matter of milliseconds, leaving she stunned. Before she can utter a word about wanting to swallow Hajime's children, he abruptly punches her. Through tears, she then reveals that she is the eldest daughter of the Halia Beast tribe, and that, being blessed by the gods with divine beauty, she believes he should help her and her tribe. Appalled by her arrogance, Hajime smacks her again, firmly declaring that Yu is the most beautiful girl in the world. In a bold move, she grabs her ample fun bags and retorts that she has 2 things better than Yu, whose chest can be used as a racetrack. Hearing she's rude remark, Hajime turns away, leaving her to face Yu's wrath. Later on, after things have calmed down, Hajime asks she to share her story. She discloses that she was shunned by her tribe because, unlike typical beastmen who cannot manipulate mana, she possesses that rare ability. Additionally, she can use specialized magic typically reserved for monsters. Now intrigued, Hajime asks her to elaborate, and she reveals that she can see possible futures, which is why she had been waiting for his arrival. After finishing her story, she pleads with Hajime once more to save her tribe, but he dismisses her, summoning a bike instead. Noticing his lack of interest, she reveals that her future sight has shown her that he is headed for the great tree in the Sea of Trees, located in the Haltsena Woods. She offers to help, explaining that the area is surrounded by thick fog and that she can guide him through it. While Hajime remains indifferent, Yu interjects, suggesting that they let she come along. When Hajime inquires the reason, Yu tells him they can use Shina as a milk factory. So, Hajime, Yu, and Shi head toward the rabbit tribe and help them fend off the attacking monsters, using Shi as bait to distract the enemies. After the battle, they meet with the other beastmen and force them to accept Shi back into the tribe. Grateful but still eager to join them on their journey, Shi offers to accompany Hajime and Yu. However, they decline, bluntly telling her that they don't want a window licker in their team. Despite the rejection, the entire village, now desperate to become stronger, begs Hajime to train them. Reluctantly, he agrees and gets to work. In the meantime, Yu spars with Shi until the bunny girl is finally able to land a hit, showing some progress. Later, Hajime asks Yu about Shi's development, and Yu admits that Shi is freakishly strong. When Shi once again asks to join them, she reveals that she's in love with Hajime. Before Yu can send Shi to have a date with Hades, the other rabbitmen report that they've destroyed the remaining monsters nearby, completing their transformation as bloodthirsty gym bros. With the village secure, the beastmen guide Hajime, Yu, and Shi to the Great Tree, where they discover a stone with a design similar to that of Orcus Labyrinth. They insert Oscar's ring, and a message appears, stating that the door will only open to those who possess 4 symbols, the power of regeneration, and a beacon formed of bonds. Unable to open the door, Hajime decides to clear the remaining 4 labyrinths before returning. They part ways with the villagers, but she sticks around, recalling her mother's prediction that she would meet others like her. Determined to follow them, she reminds Yu of their agreement, and Yu reluctantly asks Hajime to let Shi come along. Now, with Shi in tow, Hajime and Yu rack their brains trying to find the entrance to the labyrinth in Risen Gorge. Meanwhile, Shi, desperate to find a spot to relieve herself, stumbles upon the entrance by accident. As Hajime and Yu join her, a strange voice echoes through the walls, welcoming them to Mildy Risen's labyrinth. Elated by their discovery, Shi starts poking around, only to get herself trapped behind a door. When Hajime and Yu rush to locate her, the labyrinth's creator, Mildy, mocks them by telling Hajime and his gang that they're all thick as the carpets in Buckingham Palace. This infuriates Shi, who whips out a hammer crafted by Hajime and smashes the stone tablets Mildy had used to communicate with them. Despite shattering the device into countless pieces, Mildy's taunting voice continues to echo through the labyrinth. She smugly informs them that many have tried to destroy the stone tablets before, but they automatically regenerate after some time. Annoyed but undeterred, the group decides to venture deeper into the labyrinth. However, as they progress, a massive boulder suddenly comes barreling toward them. Yu quickly tries to use projectile magic, but fails, realizing that the labyrinth prevents certain spells from being cast. Now royally pissed, Hajime channels his inner mentally disturbed American teenager and opens fire on the boulder. To everyone's shock, more boulders immediately follow. Without hesitation, she jumps into action, smashing the boulders with her hammer and proving to Hajime that she's not just a pair of udders, she can hold her own in battle too. As they continue through the labyrinth, Hajime and the girls repeatedly run into traps set by Mildy. While Hajime skillfully protects both himself and Yu from the various dangers, he leaves Shi to fend for herself. Despite her efforts, she struggles to keep up, feeling increasingly frustrated by the relentless challenges. Sensing Shi's frustration, Mildy decides to surprise the bunny girl by splashing some baby gravy on her face, which only annoys Shi further. As the gang delves deeper into the labyrinth, they suddenly come to a daunting realization they've been led in circles and are right back at the starting point. Meanwhile, the NPCs, who had been too scared to continue exploring after Hajime's supposed death, gather together for a tea party. Amidst the quiet chatter, one of the girls, Yuruka, suddenly stands up with newfound determination. She declares that she's tired of being a side character and announces her decision to help Eiko on the farms, wanting to contribute something meaningful. One of the guys tries to oppose her decision, arguing that it's too dangerous, but Yuruka swiftly shuts him down, telling him he wouldn't understand since he's just an Ohio resident. Meanwhile, back at the labyrinth, Hajime and his harem arrive inside a grand room. Thinking this is the final challenge, they prepare themselves for battle as a group of imposing armored suits comes to life, ready to engage them in combat. However, when she hesitates to fight on their behalf, Hajime and Yu decide to butter her up. They tell her that Bugs Bunny would definitely choose her over Lola. Flattered by their words, she gets pumped up and charges forward, ready to take on the armored suits with newfound determination. As she clears the way, smashing through the armored suits with her hammer, Hajime and Yu sprint toward the door that leads to the next challenge. They beckon Shi to follow, and together, they leap onto a floating cube that seems to be their only path forward. However, as soon as they land on the cube, they are greeted by the final boss, none other than Mildy herself, now clad in a massive, grand armored suit. Confused, Hajime wonders aloud why the armored suit is referring to itself as Mildy when the real Mildy, like the other liberators, has been dead for ages. The entity claiming to be Mildy insists she's the real deal and then asks Hajime why he desires her ancient magic. Without hesitation and with his usual bluntness, Hajime replies that he wants to return to Earth so he can enjoy chicken wings and twinks in maid dresses. After hearing Hajime, Mildy taunts him by telling him that he likes it in the poop chute, which infuriates Hajime so much that he signals his group to launch an attack. As they all aim for Mildy's core, the Liberator counters by unleashing a deluge of boxes upon them. With their options dwindling, the girls cling to Hajime as he makes a daring escape. Meanwhile, Yu manages to sneak behind Mildy and begins cutting through her armor. Mildy, however, laughs at their efforts, revealing that her armor has the ability to regenerate. Undeterred, Hajime focuses on knocking the armor down, while Yu uses Freeze Coffin to keep it immobilized. Hajime then drills a pin into the armor, which she hammers with all her might, ultimately causing the suit to shatter. Yu, impressed by Shi's progress, playfully asks her to bend over for a celebratory rub, but Mildy interrupts, using her remaining energy to warn them about the formidable enemies they will face ahead. She tells Hajime he must become a god killer if he hopes to return home. In the next room, the group encounters another Mildy body. This one provides them with gravitic magic and her ring, but notes that only Yu, with sufficient training, is powerful enough to use it effectively. Hajime insists there must be more artifacts and shakes the Mildy body until all her treasures fall out. In a final act of spite, she flushes them away before they can take her treasures. As Hajime and the girls struggle to breathe, she spots a mewing fish and passes out. Once they make it out successfully, Hajime tries to revive Shi by giving her CPR, but the bunny girl attempts to commit first-degree murder with her tongue. Afterward, the trio heads to an inn. Hajime requests a room for the three of them, but Yu suggests that Shi stay in a separate room to allow her and Hajime some privacy. She protests and tells Hajime that she can show him how she can grip like the special kid holding the class pet. The next day, the group meets with Chang, the head of an adventurers guild, who has been searching for them in hopes of getting their help on a mission. Despite Chang's earnest plea, Hajime initially refuses to listen. Yet persistent in his own ways, Chang pesters Hajime and explains that Count Kudetta's son, Will, has gone missing with his party of adventurers and needs rescuing. Hajime still declines but changes his mind when Chang offers to back them up in future troubles. He agrees to help on the condition that Chang makes them status plates and fulfills any other requests they have. The group heads toward the mountains but plans to stop in to get some rice. Meanwhile, in Eiko leads the farming team, including Yuyuka and other hero rejects, to set up rice farms. They rest and eat together, but Eiko is troubled by the disappearance of Shimizu, who has been missing for a week. The innkeeper informs her that it will be their last meal due to trouble on the mountain, but they are expecting guests who can help. As if on cue, Hajime, Yu, and Shi walk into the inn and sit at a table. Eiko recognizes Hajime and rushes over to confirm it's really him. She questions why he looks like a mogger, but Hajime continues to evade Eiko's questions, angering a nearby knight who storms over, accusing Hajime of being rude. When he tries to insult Shi, Yu retorts by telling the knight he has a millimeter Peter. Now furious, the irrelevant white knight makes an attempt to harm Yu, but ends up facing Hajime's wrath. After quickly finishing their meal, Hajime warns everyone to stay out of his way or face the consequences. As he leaves with Yu and Shi, Eiko vows not to give up on him. Later, she receives a visit from Hajime, who explains why he isn't returning with her. He recounts the ancient wars between humans, demons, and beastmen, instigated by the god. A group of liberators rose to stop him, but their plan failed, and the god manipulated humans by telling them the liberators want to invent people that identify as animals. This earned them the title of Mavericks. The labyrinths were created so that those who conquered them could gain the power to defeat the evil god. Hajime reveals he has no intention of facing the evil god, and is only clearing the labyrinths to find a way home. Before leaving, he warns Eiko that one of the students shot at him intentionally and advises her to warn Kaori and the rest to watch their backs. That night, as Hajime and the girls prepare to depart when they find Eiko and the other students blocking their way, insisting they come with him. After negotiating a deal with Eiko to leave once she gets the information she wants, Hajime creates a car for them to travel in. They set off together, heading towards their next destination. Once in the mountains, Hajime uses transmuted drones connected with his jewel eye to search for the lost adventurers. During their mission, the gang comes across an area completely ruined by a creature. Yu goes for a closer inspection and informs Hajime that whoever caused this level of destruction is a creature with 4 legs. While scanning the area, Hajime finally locates the only survivor, Will, the nobleman's son. After exchanging introductions, Will reveals how his friends were butchered by a dragon. During the conversation, Will expresses his guilt for being the sole survivor. Pissed off, Hajime grabs him by the collar and tells Will that he just needs a woman with thunder thighs to use his face as an IKEA chair. This will solve all his depression. Now all cured, Will latches on to Eiko as the group heads towards home when a BBD attacks them. Seeing the big black dragon, Hajime's gang and the hero rejects instantly fall into combat position. With the help of Shi, Hajime manages to knock down the dragon. Unfazed by its size, Hajime inserts a sword into the dragon's cave of mystery, causing it to wail in pain. To their surprise, the dragon makes happy noises and reveals herself to be a female dragonborn, capable of turning human. The dragon explains that she was under the influence of a cloaked man's spell, which forced her to hunt Will and his companions. Seeking repentance for her actions, the dragon offers to help them stop the masked assailant responsible for the attack. After Hajime reluctantly removes the sword from her chocolate starfish, the dragon shifts into a beautiful woman named Tio. The prettier the woman, the freakier she is, so Tio admits that the sword is better than a cucumber. When everyone looks at her in horror, Tio states that anything can be a female happy device if you're bold enough. Later on, Tio informs them that the masked man is planning an attack on a nearby farming village with his horde of monsters. As the strongest person present, everyone turns to Hajime, expecting him to save the day. However, Hajime simply shrugs, uninterested in taking on more than what's required. He collects Will as per his mission and prepares to depart, leaving the others to decide what to do next. After returning to civilization, Eiko pleads with Hajime to help defeat the incoming army of monsters. Reluctantly, he agrees to help the townspeople prepare and evacuate. Before heading off to face the threat, Eiko urges Hajime to return safely. While waiting for the monsters, Yuyuka approaches Hajime, thanking him for protecting her back in the labyrinth. Hajime brushes it off as a fluke and advises her not to die. As she walks away, Tio appears, offering to join him on his journey. Hajime bluntly refuses, which only excites Tio more as she promises to prove herself in the upcoming battle. When the army of monsters finally arrives, Hajime rallies the townsfolk. He assures them that they won't lose as he was summoned by the goddess of plenty, Eiko. In the audience, Eiko looks dumbfounded, but the townsfolk instantly buy Hajime's crap since they're Delulu. As the battle begins, Hajime and Shi unleash their firepower on the monstrous horde, while Yu and Tio cast powerful spells that decimate large swaths of the enemy. Despite their efforts, the sheer number of monsters continues to press forward. Tio, exhausted, collapses as her magic ring shatters, and Hajime finds himself running low on ammunition. Determined to end the threat, Hajime and Shi charge into the monster ranks, taking down everything in their path until they finally confront the masked man behind the attack. Before the man in cloak can flee, Hajime manages to capture him and drags him back to town. Upon their return, Eiko is shocked to recognize the masked man as Shimizu, one of her students. Shimizu, driven by a twisted desire for recognition, reveals that he made a pact with the demons to eliminate Eiko, believing that the demons would praise him for killing the goddess of plenty. As Eiko tries to reason with Shimizu, he suddenly grabs her, threatening to stab her with monster poison unless Hajime hands over his weapons. As Hajime refuses, an unknown creature aims to kill Shimizu and Eiko. She quickly intervenes, only to be struck by the attack. Injured, she urges Hajime to save Eiko first. In a desperate move, Hajime kisses Eiko, passing holy water to her through the kiss and experiences why old is gold. Once Eiko is safe, she rushes to Shimizu, who is dying from his wounds. She begs Hajime to give him medicine, believing he can still be redeemed. However, Hajime coldly ends Shimizu's life with 2 bullets, stating that he doesn't give second chances. As they leave, Will asks why Hajime eliminated Shimizu, who was already dying. She solemnly explains that Hajime took on the burden of Shimizu's death to spare Eiko, allowing her to continue being the good teacher she always was. The group departs, leaving behind a town that will remember them as Chads whether they want to be or not. Returning to Furin with their new companion Tio, Hajime and Shi decide to go on a well-deserved date. Opting for something relaxing, they visit the city's aquarium, taking in the sights of the exotic marine life. Meanwhile, Tio and Yu enjoy some quality time together, exploring the streets of Furin. As Hajime and she stroll through the aquarium, they come across the Gigachad fish named Layman, who quickly bonds with the pair. As Hajime helps Layman return to the ocean, the fish mentions the abduction of a young mermaid. Later, while wandering the streets, Hajime detects the presence of a beastman coming from the sewer system. With Shi by his side, they venture down into the sewers, only to discover a young mermaid named Mayu. Despite his usual tough demeanor, Hajime's heart softens when caring for the little mermaid. After cleaning and feeding her, he reluctantly leaves the tearful Mayu in the care of the town's watch. However, seconds later, the guardhouse explodes. Upon arriving, Hajime and Shi find a message for them. If they want to save Mayu from Drake, they must hand over the busty bunny girl. Determined to rescue Mayu and unwilling to compromise Shi's safety, Hajime begins the hunt for the slavers with Shi, Tio, and Yu backing him up. After a relentless pursuit, they locate the slavers' hideout. Hajime shows no mercy, executing the boss and freeing Mayu from her captors. As a final statement, he obliterates the hideout, leaving no chance for the criminals to atone for their actions. Upon returning, the maternal instincts of the group kick in when they hear Mayu affectionately call Hajime Papa. The girls instantly tell Hajime that it's time for him to fill their ovens with his baby batter. Realizing what he's in for, Hajime panics and tells the girls that his Octopus Prime isn't ready for such a workout yet. Now back in the town where he and his classmates were first summoned, Hajime finds himself reminiscing about the bitter past. While visiting the Adventurers Guild, he unexpectedly reunites with his classmate, Endo, who is in a state of panic. Desperate, Endo pleads with Hajime to help save their former classmates from a demon named Catalia. However, Hajime, still harboring deep bitterness from their betrayal, doesn't hesitate to show his disdain toward his ex-friends. Meanwhile, in the labyrinth, Kuki's party is ambushed by Catalia and her army of monsters. Despite Catalia offering them the chance to join the demons, they refuse, clinging to their noble ideals. However, as the battle unfolds, Kuki and the gang realize that a noble choice often leads to Mega Balls busting. As Endo anxiously awaits Hajime's response, he accidentally upsets Mayu, causing her to cry. This angers Hajime, who has grown protective of Mayu and has embraced the role of a father figure. Back in the labyrinth, after witnessing the injury of their classmate, Daisuke suggests that they should join forces with the demons. However, Kuki remains steadfast in his resolve until he sees their captain, Meld, fall in battle. Fueled by rage, Kuki charges at Catalia with full force. Yet, when it's time to strike, he hesitates upon noticing the locket she wears, containing a picture of her lover. Taking advantage of his hesitation, Catalia strikes Kuki, leaving him wounded. With Shizuku and Kaori overpowered and on the brink of death, Hajime makes a dramatic entrance, slaying the monsters and saving the girls just in time. While the heroes express their shock upon seeing Hajime, he instructs his harem to protect his classmates as he faces the demon. Now facing Catalia, Hajime tells her that she better run now or the back shots will sound like the firework festival. Pissed by Hajime's lack of respect, Catalia states that he has walked into hell. Unfazed by the threat, Hajime declares the demon his enemy and grabs one of the monsters from thin air, throws it across the room, and begins shooting down all the monsters created by Catalia. He then jumps into the air, throws grenades, and follows up with a shower of gunfire that instantly wipes out the monsters. Then, a giant ninja turtle sends a powerful energy blast his way. But Hajime uses his shield to reflect it back at the demon, who realizes she's come face to face with the devil himself. As he continues his bloodthirsty rampage, Kuki asks Endo who the badass is, and Endo reveals that it's actually Hajime. In the meantime, Daisuke, remembering that he was the one who shot Hajime with the rogue attack, wets himself in fear. Suddenly, some monsters try to attack the students, but Yu casts Dark Firmament and sucks them into a dark ball, which is the size of Uranus. She joins in on the action, clobbering the monsters to dust. Next, Tio wipes out her share of monsters, prompting the demon to send Voldemort's snake after Shizuku and Kaori, but Hajime tosses Shizuku a sword, which she uses to slice the snake into sushi. Catalia then casts her ultimate move, sending a dark cloud toward Hajime, just when everyone thinks Hajime has gone to a fiery world where King Henry VIII lives. Hajime emerges unscathed and questions the demon about the source of her power, suspecting that someone else had gained ancient magic from a labyrinth and given it to her. However, Catalia refuses to reveal her secrets and tells Hajime that her lover will whoop his ass. In response, Hajime tells Catalia that he'll just eat her lover up and then raises his gun. Kuki, being a wet sock, pleads with Hajime to spare Catalia's life, but he ends her without a second thought, causing Hiyama to shit himself this time. Afterward, she reports that she's been able to heal Captain Meld, while Yu rushes to Hajime's side to give Mayu a sibling, but she grumpily tells them to read the room. Kaori then thanks Hajime for saving them and apologizes for breaking her promise as she embraces him, enraging Yu and she. As they leave the labyrinth, Kuki questions Hajime, saying he didn't have to cancel Catalya's subscription to life. Hajime responds that he's not a weak loser like him and takes care of his business. He explains that he only helped them because he owed Kaori one, causing Yu to give her the death stare. On the surface, Kaori confesses her love for Hajime and expresses her desire to stay by his side, even if it's as a side chick. Yu asks Hajime to allow Kaori to join so she can put her in her place, but Kaori accepts the challenge, believing she can win him from a girl that can't even reach the top shelf. The next day, as they prepare to leave, Kaori says her goodbyes and joins Hajime's growing harem. Meanwhile, back at the Helig Kingdom, Princess Liliana grows worried over the heroes' delayed arrival. The moment she hears they are back, she rushes to greet them. To celebrate their arrival, the palace holds a mini party for the heroes. During the event, Kuki appears to be in low spirits over losing the chance to clap Kaori's cheeks. Worried over Kuki's behavior, Shizuku tells Liliana that she might have to get under Kuki to cheer him up. In the meantime, Hajime and the gang find themselves in Grune Desert. Inside the car, Kaori calls Hajime daddy, which upsets him, and he tells her that only Mayu can call him that. As the journey progresses, Yu and Kaori butt heads over who knows Hajime the best. Kaori challenges Yu to name Hajime's top 3 animes, but the vampire proudly retorts that she doesn't need to know such information as Hajime calls her the throat goat. Before Yu has the chance to get into any details, Tio notices trouble and warns Hajime about the giant sandworms ahead. Without wasting breath, Hajime begins driving his car like a drunk driver. Being an opportunist, the girls tell Hajime they should make use of the dancing car, hoping the boy would catch their drift. Unfortunately, Hajime's attention is zeroed on the tapeworms from Uranus, and he quickly utilizes the inbuilt weapons of their car to eliminate the threat, blasting the sandworms into oblivion. After the battle, the group notices a man lying unconscious in the desert. Kaori, being a healer priest, goes to inspect the man and realizes that his condition is caused by an overload of mana in his system. Using her magic, Kaori heals the man, helping him regain consciousness. The man introduces himself as Biz, the son of Ankaji's Duke. Biz explains that Ankaji's water supply has been compromised, causing the people to suffer from a lethal buildup of mana. Upon noticing Hajime and gang's status plates, Biz requests them to save Ankaji. Being a father, Hajime finds himself compelled to be a good guy, so he accepts the job. Upon their arrival in Ankaji, Hajime and his cuddle crew swiftly construct a temporary water reservoir. Yu handles most of the heavy lifting with her complex spells. After exhausting most of her powers, Yu grabs Hajime and snacks on his blood, which of course escalates to a lip-smacking session. After resolving the fresh water issue, Hajime turns his attention to clearing out the polluted oasis of Ankaji. Using his jewel eye, he detects a monster lurking within the water. With his trusty gun, Hajime wastes no time slaying the creature. As the people of Ankaji desperately need a healer to care for those afflicted by the illness, Kaori decides to stay behind and tend to them. Leaving Mayu in her care, Hajime, she, Yu, and Tio set off towards the Grand Grune volcano to find the cure for the people of Ankaji. The real quest begins as Hajime and the gang venture deeper into the labyrinth, which turns out to be a literal hell zone filled with lava beds and monsters made of fire. Facing an army of snakes standing in their way, Hajime, she, Yu, and Tio prepare for battle, initially believing it will be easy peasy lemon squeezy. However, the scorching heat and the overwhelming number of snakes make the fight anything but easy. Tio realizes that the Liberators designed each labyrinth with specific challenges meant to be useful in a war against the gods. Undeterred, the team gears up and massacres the army of snakes. But just as they think they have the upper hand, Hajime gets bamboozled by a mysterious light force. Once the dust settles, Yu finds Hajime in a dire state. Before she can perform some soul-snatching sloppy toppy to revive Hajime, Yu and the girls are attacked by the demon commander, Frayed, who boldly declares Hajime's is a threat to humankind. Not missing a chance to be an alpha, Hajime regains consciousness and asks Frayed what mental illness led to him dyeing his hair red. Frayed states that he is God's apostle sent to punish heathens. Sighing, Hajime realizes Frayed has a delusion disorder. In the meantime, Frayed announces that he is itching to show him the age of God's power that he earned. As the fight rages on, Hajime and his simp squad find themselves overwhelmed by Frayed. Just when things seem dire, Hajime reveals his ace up his sleeve, Tio, the Dragonborn. During her father's final moments, he reveals that Dragonborns must remain hidden as they are now considered enemies of the gods, only to emerge when they find a worthy purpose. It seems Tio has finally found her purpose to save her master. With determination, she transforms into a mighty dragon and unleashes her magic on Frayed and his monsters, turning the tide of battle. After witnessing the pivotal role Tio played, Frayed decides to retreat, but not before dismantling a stone that kept the Grune volcanoes dormant. With eruptions now imminent, Hajime orders Tio to fly out alone so she can save herself and Ankaji. Before parting ways, Hajime tells Tio to take care and tell Kaori and Mayu they'll meet soon. Meanwhile, back at the royal palace of Heilig Kingdom, Liliana informs Shizuku that the king desires Kuki to grow stronger, as the demon army poses a serious threat. She also reveals that the king plans to label Hajime a heretic. After narrowly escaping danger, Tio reunites with Kaori and Mayu in Ankaji, where her wounds are treated. Meanwhile, Hajime wakes up to the sight of the open sea. A flashback reveals what happened after Tio's departure from the Grune volcanoes. After obtaining the ancient magic of the labyrinth, which happens to be spatial magic, Hajime summons a submarine he had previously crafted. However, a powerful flow of lava drags them deeper into the earth. But since he's the ultimate edgelord of the show, Hajime, of course, survives yet another near-death experience. In the present, Hajime celebrates his victory by dipping his pinky in Yu's stinky. After ending their celebration with a bang, Hajime, Yu and she are greeted by a group of angry-looking mermans who accuse him of being a kidnapper. As Hajime tries to clear his name, Mayu, Kaori, and Tio arrive, and they all have an emotional reunion in the middle of the ocean. Together, the group heads to the city of Iraisen, Mayu's hometown. Once there, Hajime reunites Mayu with her mother, Rimia. In gratitude, the widowed mermom tells Hajime that she can show him why Mayu's biological dad had a weak pull-out game. At the royal palace, Shizuku crosses paths with her teacher, Eiko, who looks exhausted and troubled. During their conversation, Eiko reveals that the church has officially branded Hajime as a heretic for refusing to follow orders. She also mentions that the king and nobles have been acting strangely. Moreover, Eiko also reveals the disturbing truth about God and its ulterior motives, which Hajime had previously confided to her during their encounter. After cleaning up, Kaori tries to find Hajime for some nighttime fun, but since Hajime gets more ass than the toilet seat, he goes to touch grass and plans his next conquest. The following night, Hajime uses a magical artifact he collected from the Great Grune volcano and creates an underground entrance in the ocean which leads them to the sunken ruins of Melusine. As they venture into the labyrinth, they encounter low-tier monsters, which are easily dispatched by Hajime and his crew. Now feeling cocky, Hajime bitches about being able to slay the monsters so easily. Moments later, God sends him a purple jizz monster as a FU. This monster proves to be a much tougher opponent with no obvious weak points, forcing the group to retreat. During the chaos, Yu, she, and Tio get separated from Hajime and Kaori, who has been feeling like your man when you use a huge, girthy cucumber instead of him, aka useless and inadequate. Now separated from the others, Hajime and Kaori find themselves trapped in an illusion of a war, battling ghost pirates. After the fight, Hajime bluntly confronts Kaori about her behavior. He tells her that Yu will always hold a special place in his heart, and if that makes her feel defeated, she should consider leaving him. Meanwhile, back at the palace, Eiko is kidnapped by a sinister nun with a treacherous plan. As Hajime and Kaori venture deeper into the labyrinth, they're pulled into an illusion of a post-war celebration where beastmen, humans, and demons are joyfully mingling. Suddenly, a king with a masked escort appears and, while initially addressing everyone with affection, his demeanor turns dark as he orders the execution of demons and beastmen in the name of God Ahit. When the disturbing illusion ends, Hajime notices Kaori's fearful state. After she pulls herself together, the pair proceed further into the labyrinth, only for Kaori to fall into a surprise trap. As Hajime rushes to her aid, he observes a change in Kaori's behavior and draws his gun. Discovering that magic ammunition acts as a kryptonite for the entity possessing Kaori, Hajime doesn't hesitate to shoot her. Once Kaori regains control of herself, she focuses on a more pressing matter furthering the plot with Hajime. She confesses that since her parents never told her they loved her, she's willing to endure the pain just to have crumbs of his affection. With a renewed understanding between them, They reach the end of the labyrinth and reunite with Yu, Shi, and Tio. After collecting the magical artifact from the sunken ruins, the group is ejected into the sea by eviction magic. On their way out, the gang is attacked by the same purple monster. Hajime informs his Jizz Socks that he needs time to eliminate the monster, and luckily, Layman the fish makes a dramatic entrance, buying Hajime the time he needs to launch missiles at the monster. After their adventure at the sunken ruins, the group returns to Eraisen, where Hajime takes out his exhaustion by dipping his willy in Yu's sauna. This prompts young Mayu to ask Hajime why he is always in his birthday suit with Yu. Reluctant to answer, Hajime tells Mayu that she'll get this when she's an old hag. Following breakfast, the girls take Mayu for a game of tag by the ocean. The merciful plot god dresses the girls in fatherless bikinis to appease you wankers, but Hajime, who is built differently, sits alone, pondering over how he would tell Mayu he's about to leave her behind. As Hajime broods, Rimiya emerges from the water and expresses her gratitude for bringing Mayu back. She reassures him that he has done enough and shouldn't worry about leaving Mayu, as she already understands that their farewell is near. During the conversation, Rimiya tells Hajime that he can drop his load and then hit the road, but Hajime politely declines. Just then, Mayu runs over to her papa and hands him Shi's bikini top, leading to all the girls getting playful and tossing their bikinis at Hajime like he's some rapper. The farewell is sweet and tearful, with Hajime promising Mayu that he'll take her back to Japan with him, overcome by his love for her. Meanwhile, in the Heilig Kingdom, the king and knights seem to be under a mysterious void spell, which Meld discovers during his investigation. Eiko, on the other hand, is imprisoned by the mysterious nun, who is clearly following the orders of her mysterious master. After writing a letter to Hajime to inform him of the situation, Meld is ambushed by Hiyama, who has been conspiring with the enemy. Hiyama, along with his shadowy co-conspirator, succeeds in executing Captain Meld with the assistance of a mysterious girl named Noit. Meanwhile, Hajime and his squad happen to cross paths with Princess Liliana, whose caravan had been attacked by bandits. With a bit of nudging from Kaori, Hajime casually runs over the bandits with his trusty car, making quick work of them. Liliana, relieved to have bumped into them, thanks her lucky stars. Initially, Hajime doesn't recognize her, which offends the princess, but she quickly brushes it off since more urgent matters are at hand. She reveals to Hajime and Kaori that she witnessed Eiko's kidnapping by the mysterious nun and has been cautiously avoiding the church ever since. Upon learning this, Hajime decides to help Miss Eiko, partly for not ratting him out in PTMS and partly for his own benefit, as the Divine Mountain where she's being held is a labyrinth. At the Divine Mountain, Eiko is shackled with magic blocking restraints, lost in worry for her students. Subconsciously rubbing her lips, she calls out for Hajime, and, as if on cue, he appears out of nowhere. Startled but quickly recovering, Eiko thanks him and apologizes for the harsh words she spoke after Shimizu's death. Before they can leave the cell, Hajime's jewel eye detects demon troops advancing on the Heilig Kingdom. Just as they're about to make their escape, Hajime is ambushed by Noit, who introduces herself as the Apostle of God. After ditching Liliana in the capital city of the Heilig Kingdom, Yu and Shi split up to take on the representatives of the demon army. She faces off against Catalia's lover, Mikhail, who hates the bunny girl like gamers hate showers. Realizing his animosity seems personal, Shi confronts him, and Mikhail reveals he's out for revenge over Catalia's death. Shi, unfazed by his sob story, unleashes a storm of pain with a giant kendama, making quick work of him. Without breaking a sweat, she finishes the fight, sending Mikhail off to join his lover hopefully in hell. Meanwhile, Yu confronts Freyd, who's better prepared this time after their last encounter. He deploys Absods to nullify Yu's lightning magic, smugly believing the fight is over. But it's far from it. Yu summons a swarm of spiritual dragons, wiping out most of Freyd's monster troops. Not wasting a second, Freyd attempts to impale Yu with Uranus. However, the triumphant look on his face quickly vanishes when he sees Yu smirking, who had healed herself with a restoration spell, leaving Freyd bleeding and bewildered. Despite this, Freyd manages to escape, thanks to his soldiers buying him just enough time. Back at the Divine Mountain, Noit continues her relentless assault, but Hajime effortlessly counters her attacks, all while carrying Eiko in his arms. Just as the situation seems to heat up, Tio swoops in, transforming into her dragon form so Hajime doesn't have to carry his land whale teacher. While riding Tio, Eiko realizes how everyone is risking their lives and tells Eiko she wants to contribute to the battle and help her students. Understanding Eiko's desire for vengeance, Tio agrees to assist her. Meanwhile, with the will of the gods fueling her, Noit proves to be a formidable opponent. But even as bloodied and beaten as he is, Hajume's desire to survive and make it back to sweet home Japan pushes him to launch his own relentless attacks. Wielding his giant lightning mecha sword, Hajume delivers a fatal strike to Noint, sending her plummeting to her death with her stoic expression unchanging till the end. After finishing his battle with Noint, Hajume reunites with Tio and Eiko at what appears to be remains of the church. Confused by the destruction, Hajume learns from Tio that Eiko helped catalyze her magic, which led to the church's demolition. The weight of having taken lives crushes Eiko, and she breaks down in tears. Seeing her teacher in such a terrible state, Hajume agrees to let her feel his abs. At that moment, Buddhist Big T appears amidst the ruins, signaling for them to follow. Believing they've conquered the labyrinth of the Divine Mountain, Hajume decides to follow him, ultimately unlocking the magic of yet another labyrinth. Meanwhile, at the castle, Shizuku and her friends unknowingly walk into a deadly trap set by one of their own. As her classmates are mercilessly slaughtered, Shizuku is stabbed by Nia, the friendly maid. As she falls, the imposter among us finally reveals herself. Seeing her classmates fall, Iri cackles like me after discovering my hot sister is adopted. After cooking her classmates, Iri walks towards Kuki and puts a dog collar on him. Unfazed by his confusion, Iri swaps spits with Kuki. Shizuku, utterly disgusted by Iri's drastic change in character, demands to know why she betrayed them. Iri gleefully reveals that she had always been into Kuki and explains how her obsession with making Kuki hers and hers alone drove her to side with the demons. Going deeper into the details, Iri explains how she used her skills as a necromancer to bend the entire royal court to her will. Horrified by this, Kuki yells at her to stop. Declaring that he'll never forgive her, however, Iri simply smirks. She responds sweetly, saying she knows how kind and caring he is, so as a reward, she'll kill him first and revive him as her personal cucumber. Upon seeing Iri act like a Hello Kitty girl, Shizuku tells her that a therapy and vibrating massager is better than whatever she pulled. Now pissed off, Iri finally confesses her deep-seated hatred for her and Kaori. Just as she's about to strike a fatal blow, Kaori and Liliana burst onto the scene, rescuing Shizuku just in time. Kaori, wasting no time, uses her magic to heal everyone and give them an extra boost of strength. But just as victory seems within reach, Hayama plunges a sword into Kaori's chest, confessing his feelings for her. Hearing such a heart-touching confession, pun intended, Kaori becomes numb. With anger surging through their veins, Kuki and the others engage in battle against Iri's undead knights. Amidst the chaos, Team Hajume arrives just in time. While Tio and Eiko tend to a seemingly lifeless Kaori, Hajume unleashes his fury on Hayama, delivering a brutal beatdown. But when he turns his wrath on Area, Freyed and his demon army intervene. However, with his new magic at the go, Hajume obliterates Freyd's forces in mere seconds, showcasing just how far he's come. In her office, Liliana reads the reports on the aftermath of the demon army's attack. It turns out the king was slayed by the Mysterious, who has disappeared without trace, while Iri took off with Freyd and his forces after their epic failure. With the royal capital finally secure, the remaining heroes are getting some much-needed downtime. But just as Kuki laments not wanting Hajume to return, the man himself, along with his harem, dramatically descends from the sky. Shizuku's anxiety is palpable when she notices Kaori isn't with them. She immediately bombards Hajume with questions, and though he nervously reassures her that Kaori is fine, he also mentions she looks a bit different now. That confusion is short-lived as Kaori soon makes her entrance now in Noint's body. After a heartfelt reunion, Hajume explains that since Kaori wanted to compete with his centuries-old vampire bee, he had her soul transferred into Noint's repaired body using God's New Age magic. Later, when Hajume reveals that they were all summoned to this world for Ihit's twisted amusement, Kuki loses it, yelling at Hajume for withholding such critical information. But Hajume quickly shuts him down, pointing out that Kuki probably wouldn't have believed him anyway. Over dinner, Hajume outlines his next plan to explore a new labyrinth, which leads to his classmates begging him to take them along so they do not die and get reincarnated as vending machines. After some thought, Hajume agrees to help them out. Watch this next video. See you on the next one.